I hope it's clear
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, solid. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm excited to be here. What we're going to deal with is something very deep, and many organizations, teams, and individuals actually battle this challenge. The problem is um, we underestimate the power of the human mind in how it shapes behavior, especially within the four walls of an organization. So I will be attempting to drive some thoughts based on research in introduction. 85% executives say accountability is critical to performance according to the Harvard Business Review. The Gallup Workplace Study says 23% say their organization actually practice it consistently, and 91% of leaders actually admit that they avoid full ownership in the last 90 days of when that particular survey was done. So that's a very powerful paradox there. On one side, executives are saying that this is very important and it is the engine room of performance because before you can perform, you must, in your mind, you must crystallize ownership. If you don't crystallize ownership, performance is fluid and fickle, and it will be a matter of whoever sees the ball can take it. And if it drops, it's fine. Um, this paradox is very powerful in and of itself because at the roots of, if you see a football match, for example, until a player takes the ball and begins to move and takes full ownership of the ball and that particular part of the play, 90 minutes can be a wasted time. But at the same time, numbers the number shows the organizations and especially executives subconsciously are aware, and in fact, I dare say consciously aware that there's a problem here because there's a real gap in between what they know they should own and uh, because it's not a skill problem, fixing it is not easy. It's not something that learning and development in and of itself is geared to take up. It's not within the frame, it's within the blind spot of the part of the brain where cognition in terms of skills can attack. I hope I'm not speaking too much heavy grammar. Let me try and break that down. What I mean is that there's some things that are in the realm of the subconscious of the mind, the place where will is situated. It's not something someone can come in the morning and say, this is how to take accountability. Well, there are tools and all of that to help you to become more accountable. But many of those tools are on the surface. They are not dealing with the willingness behind the scenes that is affecting the accountability challenge. And that's the accountability paradox. And that is why accountability is actually far more a psychological issue than a mental issue. There are some hidden issues, and I've narrowed them to five categories. There are more than five. The very long list. What are the psychological drivers of avoidance or not taking ownership, especially because we're dealing with the context of very, very intelligent people. Why smart adults? Very smart people. If you see, I don't know whether I can see my course of smart adults avoid ownership at work. Why would you leave your house and you left everything you're trying to do at home? You leave your comfortable bed and you come to work. And then at work, you avoid ownership. That's a paradox right there. What are you a smart adult? Meaning that you on the IQ scale, you're very intelligent, most likely. And then you come to work where you want to work, and then you begin to avoid ownership. What exactly is going on? Now, there are some hidden drivers in the soul of, and by the way, let me just make this very clear. there is the engine of the human life where the place where habits are formed, the place that determines what you will do eventually and where your hand will move. If I give you option A, B, C, D, E in terms of behavior, how would you behave? That place is the place where habits reside. And that place is where execution and performance lies ultimately. Although that place is not accessible by traditional thinking mechanisms, it's much more deeper psycho-emotional space of a person. Now, the problem is that that space requires interrogation for the individual and requires tools like coaching, psycho-emotional therapy, and on all kinds of interrelated capacities that help you assess that part of a person. Now, the second thing is that now at the organizational level, when we now have two, three, four, five people working together in a team, there is also that subconscious, unseen part of performance or of what you're observing with the persons within the team. Now, so it begins to aggregate the one at individual, the subconscious mind at individual levels. We have the subconscious mind of a team and how they are interacting together. You now have the subconscious of the organization. Now, this is what creates the culture. At the individual level, you create your habits. At the team level, the driver of culture is the internal thought processes, psycho-emotional dispositions of your team, the hidden, unseen, unsaid things that drive how they work together and how they systematize and synthesize each other, and then what drives what happens in that team subconsciously. For example, we mentioned at the last moment of the coaches, coaching, the moment with the coaches, where we said that individuals, somebody is not coming to work on time, for example. It's a microcosm of behaviors, one example. And you want to get the team to a certain level of attendance or punctuality on the indicator. What do you do? As a manager, you must go beyond. So, what time did you come? How far away do you live? And you must try to understand the moment of the switch. At what point does your bed go so uncomfortable that the light and the brightness of your task at work makes the day very beautiful and you can't afford to be away? What makes you very sad to leave on Friday and very glad to come back on Monday? As a manager, that is your assignment. Otherwise, you will not be able to achieve that particular behavioral pattern where you want them to come on time. Now, the genius manager is the person that can create that shift between they are glad to leave and sad to return on Monday morning versus so sad to leave and glad to come back on Monday morning. At what point do I can I not wait for Monday morning to come? What will be the driver? How do I shift the mood of my team, the internal disposition of my team? That becomes the team culture and that becomes the engine of performance if we take that punctuality as an example. So I just use that to say that understanding the hidden psychological drivers of not taking responsibility is a starting point behind the scenes. And the human soul is very deep, and the caution is to be very observant and not to judge and to listen with patience and empathy and kindness. And at human capacity development levels or HR levels, we need to create systems that encourage managers or frameworks that help managers drive or tease out what is the specific driver of avoidance. Don't assume. My recommendation is that we should try and be patient because some persons don't even really know why they are avoiding responsibility or accountability. They don't know why. We have to develop systems that tease it out. This is just a general guide. It is not in any way to become legislative. The real key is your ability to observe, to listen, to watch, to think, to analyze, interact, continuously test until you locate what are the drivers of avoidance. But you need to do that surgery before you can go ahead to create the change you want in terms of accountability. So number one, fear of failure and exposure. Many people don't want failure. Many people don't want to be exposed. You see, the human brain equates public mistakes with social debt. What psychologists have found out in research is the amygdala, the part of the brain that fires when there is challenge or when there is crisis. Uh, it will hijack any rational ownership reflexes. It doesn't matter how brilliant or beautiful or talented you are. Once your amygdala picks the idea that you are under a threat, it hijacks your ability to take decisions, hijacks all your cognitive intelligence, your beauty, it hijacks all self confidence and all zones of performance. And that public mistake becomes social debt. And many people don't want to make mistakes at work. Some people don't care if there's a mistake at work. Many other persons care. Some people don't think it's a big deal if they make mistakes at work, but that percentage is very rare, especially when it's in public. Then at work, that's two layers. That's where you earn money from, and your work for many people is that your sense of well-being, your sense of your sense of self-importance, your sense of self actualization, your sense of self-esteem. There are about seven selves that your work and your well-being at work is tied to self-respect and all of those things. Once your brain thinks that you are going to be put to shame or you will have failure or your weakness will be exposed, immediately you begin to avoid. Immediately you would not, there's no, look, there's nothing. If a gun is put to your head, you can be saying word of mother, yes, I take responsibility. Oh, don't worry, I'm accountable. It's a lie. Deep in your mind, you're not going to move an inch. Your muscles stop climbing, your habits change, the behavior you see on the table change, and you almost have no control. It's a self-sabotaging system. It's a very strong self-sabotaging system. You can't move anything. It's almost subconscious. That's why they talk in meetings and you don't want to see anything anymore. In fact, this is the point where people don't want to come to work because there is fear of failure and exposure. And this fear is interpreted at the level of the amygdala. You're not even conscious that you are really afraid of failure and exposure, and especially because it is public. The number, the second category of reasons is what we call ego protection mechanisms. There are things there are internal biases that a lot of us are running. Many persons, including yours truly, and everybody, most of the persons in the workplace, uh, have what you call self-serving bias. We own our own success. You want to own your own success. By the way, let me say this quickly. Ego, have you seen that quote? I mean, how many people have seen that quote before? That quote that says that ego is the problem. And how many people have seen it before? The ego is the problem. Just say yes, you heard about it before. You say ego is the problem, true or false? Hello.
Yes.
Ooh,
Yes, true. Yes, true.
okay, how many of us agree?
Yeah,
That you agree that ego is the problem? Do we
yes,
agree?
I agree.
You agree? Okay. Someone help me Google the meaning of ego.
I
Google the
don't
meaning of ego.
agree.
Okay. Who doesn't agree? Why don't you agree?
Um, I'm the one that don't agree. And why I don't agree is because I used to think that ego is the problem, but I have a recent encounter with someone, and when we deep dive in a conversation, I realized that there are some things that are missing. There is practical ignorance. It was so glaring that this person does not even know. From afar, I assume it was his ego. But when I moved closer, we are trying to solution about the issue we had. It was clear communication was very hard for this person to have with me. And then I saw genuine but stupid ignorance. So that's why I'm saying ego is not always the problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Because I don't want us to stretch it for too long, but thank you. Thank you for going behind the scenes to discover why the behavioral resistance you're seeing. Can someone let me Google the word ego and then read it out? What does ego mean? What does ego mean? Google, what is ego? Google definition. You're going to see it come up. Help me read it.
Okay, so it reads ego means the self, especially as contrasted with another self or the world.
Mm-hmm.
Then the AI definition on Google says the ego is the conscious mind and sense of self, acting as the mediator between personal desires and reality or morality.
Correct. So how is that a problem? Listen, let me just let's cut the argument. Let's cut it. Let's cut to the chase. See, that statement is wrong that ego is the problem. Ego in itself is not the problem. Ego is good. You don't want egoless people around you. Egoless people are people with lack of self-esteem, weak, fickle, inferiority complex. They damage things. You don't want them around you. They're going to destroy your business, destroy your HR, destroy anything you're building. You have an egoless person. It's done. The thing is out of the room when there's an egoless person. Ego is actually very good. It's good to have ego. The problem is ego, yes, I, thank you, Abosede, refers to the conscious mind, your sense of self-identity, the part of your personality that mediates between instinctual desires and moral conscience, superego. It functions to manage reality, make rational decisions, and maintain self-esteem, often representing a person's image of themselves. How is that the problem? Hello? Somebody help me. How is that the problem? The ego is not the problem. Egoless people are people with lack of self-esteem. Egoless people spoil things. Egoless people don't have a sense of self-worth. Egoless people damage things. Egoless people break organizational goals. Egoless people are people that don't understand what needs to be done. Their sense of self-worth, self-esteem, self-identity, self-engineering, self-architecture is totally down. And when they see people with correct self-esteem, they will fight them. You don't want them around you. Yeah, Modupe, I can see your hand.
Okay, so would you rather say the excess of it is probably the challenge?
That in itself may be the problem, not yet the problem.
Okay.
Because the excess of it is called superego, which is also useful for superior performance. You must see yourself in a certain mental image to perform at a certain level. What the problem is not ego. It's another word entirely. What people mean by ego is the problem. Is something else, which is that you're so much in your own armor or your own strength, you are enchanted by your own self-charm so that you don't see your blind spots, so that you've forgotten that you are human and humus and humane, so that nobody is able to talk to you. That is the problem, not ego. I hope this is clear.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Somebody says it should not be the problem. That's English language. It is never the problem. It is human beings that made it the problem. People don't understand the meaning of the word ego. Yeah, see, I've attached the word death. Somebody's arguing with me. You're attaching other words to it. Ego in itself is not a problem. Yeah, but it's a wrong, Florence Balaji Lawal, it's a wrong use. Originally, the word ego. Look, ego, go study it. I studied ego. Go study it in psychology. Egoless people damage things. You see, you've added big ego to it. Egocentric. You have, you see, you have changed the roots and you're trying to create what I'm saying is that when we say ego is the problem is actually a wrong conception. It is the excess of it. It is the over killing and trying to forcefully, and you're saying other things. And it's okay, you see, in life, label the right concept with the right meaning. Meaning and words are two different things. Words are not meanings, just like the map is not the territory, and words and meanings are different. So when people say is egotistic, is egocentric, is egoistic, let them sit with you and discuss what do they mean. They probably mean you don't listen to another person's opinion, which is self-centered or self-focused, or you're looking at your own strength too much. All of those things are necessary parts of the conversation. So ego protection mechanisms, these are mechanisms that are self-serving, as human beings, I beg your pardon, there's an illustration I was trying to look for in my mind, a case study I'm also look for my computer here. Oof, okay. Now, there are some of us that, not even some of us, for most of us, anything that touches your sense of self, especially self-identity, you will deflect it powerfully. If something will make you look stupid and it's going to equate with the identity, if somebody is a non-performer, you have put non-performance beside the person's name. So if I say Ade is non-performing or this person is non-performing, what we have done is that non-performance has become that person's identity. It's almost like equal to a few persons. I mean, people are in the waiting room. Can someone help me? Few persons are able to recover from that. So they will do everything and anything possible. And don't blame them, please. Otherwise, you'll not be able to help them or help anyone that has this any of these avoidance strategies. When you have a piece of white cloth, you see the white cloth. If there's a spot on it, all of a sudden your eyes does not see the whiteness of the larger area. Your eye will always go to the spot on the white piece of cloth. A very smart person has worked all their lives to have their self-identity of smartness. They've gone to school, they've gone to this, they've done that, and they've been dubbed as smartness or being smart. They have owned the self-identity or the ego space. That's a constituent of their self-esteem, by the way. They've gone to school, someone's done masters, done PhD, to say I am intelligent or you are intelligent or whatever. That's the mental program they are running. All of a sudden, you give them a responsibility and you expect them to be accountable for it. They will run from that accountability and they don't even know they are running. Their brain will protect that space. Everybody owns success, but you want to deflect failure because your identity is too fragile to absorb any visible error. That's the problem with self-serving bias. When something will be successful, oh, you are there. So if there is a chance of failure, this ego protection mechanism will switch on in your psycho-emotional space. And it can be so for a team. You can have this happening for a team, it can have it happen for an organization. So if you want someone to really take accountability, then you have to put mechanisms in place that protect people's egos or protect the team's success ownership space and will not expose them. Otherwise, you won't get to accountability. When I say that with the proviso. For example, failure should not be fatal in an organization. It should not be. If failure is fatal, then you're going to see less persons taking responsibility or accountability. All right, let's go to the third reason why the third things that drive avoidance. Not the reason, what drives avoidance, psycho-emotionally. There's an experiment that has been done many times all over the world from different places where somebody was in crisis and began to shout and pretend like they were. You can some of that on social media. You can see on social media too. This person begins to shout and begin to say they're in trouble, or they begin to shout or pretend like they were having seizures. The behavior of the first person in the group will determine what the others will do. The first, second, third, fourth, fifth persons, the first 2, 3, 4. If they stand and they are looking, others will come and they'll be looking at the person. It's called the bystander effect in corporate form. Someone else will do it because I don't want to be the person that the person will now die in their hands. In Yoruba, my mother tongue, they say, Kotoju Micheleki, Dewaju lawyer Shejo. Meaning that it didn't happen. I don't know. I was just passing by and I didn't even look left or right. I kept driving on. So that's effect number one, fear of failure and exposure. I don't want number two. I don't want to be doing CPR and then the patient will die in my hand. I don't want that. So I just stand by so that somebody becomes the operating default. Those are things that make people, and it's a culture. Because the last person, I mean, if anyone has tried, or you have a father or a mother who was driving and somebody had an accident and they took them to hospital in Nigeria, for example, and you saw what your dad or mom went through, you become a non-good Samaritan for life. Is there anybody that this happened to before? You become or you saw how a relative was grilled by the police, and people have actually gone to jail for helping someone that was gasping for bread by the roadside. Anybody had that experience before? Or you see it practically in Nigeria. The police will say, "Who are you? How come you are the one driving near the place? You must be a problem." Anybody seen it before in Nigeria? Hello? Hi, can everybody still hear me?
Very
Loud
well,
and
clear.
clear, sir.
I can hear you.
Okay. I was asking, has anybody seen it before where the police will just turn it to your problem? In an organization, anybody experience where you went to report to management that something was wrong and they made it your problem eventually, so that you regretted that you reported the problem? Anybody had that kind of issue before? Yeah, better mind your business. Yes. That subconscious feeling is inside all of us. How come you're the one that's too forward? You're the one naming the problem. You came into the room and you're telling everybody what the problem is. If you're not careful, what's going to happen is that you become the reason, you become the scapegoat, you become the reason for the problem. So all of these things compound bystander effects. And before you know, nobody wants to take accountability for anything, especially sufficient, therefore, is the evil of each day. Yeah, Modope, yes, you want to say something? I see your hand.
Yes, thank you. I don't intend to interrupt, but because you're saying when we highlight issues or identify things, it's in turn becomes us. Recently, I've observed in the workspace that when you have ideas and you bring it up and you say, oh, we could do this differently, I found out that leaders now will say, oh, since you are bringing up this idea, you take it on. And it is not necessarily because I want to execute it, but I've seen a gap, I identify it, and I think though if we do it this way, it could be better. It is not necessarily turning it to a problem, but I'm seeing a pattern that these days when you see something and say something that can be done differently, they just make you automatically be the one to champion it. And it's in a way, it's good, but sometimes it becomes discouraging. I don't have capacity, but if I mention it, I have to take it on. So people begin to keep quiet.
You're totally correct. Thank you for that. Totally, that's an example of it. Totally correct. And before you know it, people don't want to take responsibility for coming up with new ideas anymore or take accountability for that area. Very, seriously, similarly, would face your work and go home. That's it. Wow, yeah, that's the spirit of it. And before you know, those are the psychological drivers of avoidance. The other one are two more: punitive culture conditioning. You see, when mistakes historically trigger punishment, silence becomes rational survival behavior. I'll say that again. When mistakes historically trigger punishment, once it's fatal to commit an error around you, it's difficult to make a mistake around you, then to be silent becomes rational survival behavior around you. People will have to be quiet around you, totally quiet around the organization, around the team. Those are the reasons that cause that trigger, and they're subconscious. These are mental paradigms, mental programs that people are running that they don't even know that they are running. Another one is cognitive dissonance and reframing. Many persons will rewrite the narrative to protect self-image. Rationalization replaces accountability reflexively without thinking about it. People have a reason why for their bad behaviors. People have a reason for the negative things they are doing. Even if somebody were to be hurt, I mean, this is a joke I tell people, forgive me, it's a Christian church context kind of joke. But I mean, I think I know human behavior enough that when Joseph's brothers, when they finally saw him in Egypt, I mean, those that may not understand that context, forgive me. Joseph's brothers sold him to slavery. And eventually, he became a big man in Egypt. He became like an advisor to the king, economic advisor to the king in Egypt. And the king now eventually made him a prime minister and all of that. And so his brothers came later because there was now famine everywhere and they needed to eat. So the joke is that I tell people that I'm sure Joseph brothers will be like, Josie, oh, Josh, no, 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 no. We did you bad, but you need to be thanking God because of us. Because how would you have turned out this way if we didn't sell you into slavery? Hello. The hardship you went through is how you turned out this way. And we are the ones that God used. If not for us, you will actually be at home. So it should be, we are not exactly very evil. We're just agents of God. Forgive us, we didn't know what we're doing, but actually we're agents of God. And you can't be angry with us anyway. People have a way of reframing things in a way that suits the narrative of their subconscious positive energy. They want to re-narrate, even if it was bad, even if they caused harm, even if they did bad. So that's cognitive dissonance and reframing. People reframe stuff in a certain way that subconsciously you are now wondering, isn't the same? And organizations have this a lot. There's even a much more difficult form of it. There's the CEO's cognitive dissonance reframing in management. The CEO, the chief, the whatever the boss wants. That there's a way people are talking in executive meeting, and every framing and reframing will be around what the boss wants. That's an example of the corporate type of this. So this is not an individual. This is gravitating towards the manager or the leader. He's so powerful that everything is reframed cognitively around what the boss or management or leadership wants. And it's very powerful. And once people see that the boss is biased in a certain direction, that's what people are going to do. Before I go on to the next slide, let me look at the comments very quickly. And if you have a comment, just raise your hand. I love us to interact. Right, sorry. Just a minute. I've also noticed it whenever you shared an idea, yes, the management asks you to lead the team, and you don't want to lead. Brother Josino Vex, so yeah, it's a type, of manipulation. Yes, Joseph interpreted the king's dream and became driver to the whole exercise. 7 years of abundance. Yeah. And I'm hearing it. Can everyone hear this loud and clear? So I will not take any accountability of coming up with a new idea that they will not ask me to come and be the leader of. Any new idea, they just tell me to come and manage it, and I'm not ready. Because Joseph actually came up with the interpretation of the king's dream, and that's how he became prime minister. And that's one of the challenges with the workspace. Peter, I see your hand. Just 1 minute. One of the biggest challenges in the workspace is this: hard work is always rewarded with harder work. You come up with beautiful idea, you graduate into project manager for that idea. Because of that, just do the limit. Don't take accountability for any extra idea. If you know that your salary is enough for you, just do your bit and go home. Very easy. All right, Peter, I see your hand. Let's take you.
Oh, okay. Good evening, facilitator. Good evening, sir. I have
Yeah.
2 questions. I like the part where you talked about the CEO and the meeting of management, and all the framing is in tandem with what the CEO wants. So I wanted to ask if that is not a consonance rather than dissonance. And secondly, you have
Sorry,
talked
if it's not
about
what? I didn't hear that. If it's not what?
if that is not cognitive consonance instead of a dissonance.
If it's not
So
cognitive what?
cognitive consonance rather than
Instead of
cognitive dissonance.
okay, go on. Yes.
Okay,
That's first question. What's second one? That
okay,
please name the phenomenon very well again. That the CEO what?
that's you've seen cases where in a meeting all conversations seems to be agreeing with the CEO's position.
Okay.
Okay,
Actually,
so
actually, that in itself is consonance.
okay,
But what is dissonance there is that every narrative of avoiding responsibility or not taking accountability is dissonance. Do you understand? But that they are all
yes, I do.
agreeing with him is consonance. They are all agreeing with him is consonance. Dissonance is that there's disconnection from reality. You
Okay,
understand?
I agree. I agree.
And people
I
will
agree.
reframe. You understand? So that avoidance of responsibility is dissonance. But that they are agreeing with him as an example is consonance. Yeah, you're right. Go on.
Okay.
Second question.
Okay. Secondly, I want you to look at the item number 1. I would like you to look at item number 1 as against item number 5. In the narration there, you said the narrative of protecting image, self-image. It occurs to me that sometimes when people frame their statements like saying ego is the enemy, is based on where they are coming from. It's based on their orientation. So that framing might not be
Might not be what? Hmm. Hello, Peter, I lost you.
I think we stopped hearing him.
okay. I'm back. Sorry, the stop just suddenly went off. Please confirm that you can
Okay.
hear me. I was making
Yeah.
reference to item 1 versus item 5. So you are
Yeah.
talking about self-image. For instance,
Yes.
us in the sociology or social psychology, we always like to know where a person is coming from based on the apparent phenomena we are seeing in front of us. And I'm saying that
Yes.
some of those conversations, some of those statements might just be out of thinking, out of motivation. They might not be coming from an expert psychology, so to say. So it might not apply in this sense, you know. So if you say self-image, and you say ego is the self, that
I didn't say ego is the self.
Sigmund
I
Freud
said
said,
ego is a foundation or a part of what the self uses. Ego is a set of internal signals that self will now use to interpret itself. Do you understand?
okay, I
Number
agree.
two is that when we started, I said something. I said this is not exhaustive and don't take this as a market laundry list that you apply all the time. I said at the beginning, make sure that you don't judge. We listen, we watch, we continue to collect data, analyze, interact, and what is going on may actually be totally out of these sets. I did say that at the beginning.
Okay.
I said
On
this is
that
just a
note, I will
conversation
just
starter.
leave it then. Yes,
I
I'll
said this
leave
is a
it there.
conversation starter. Oh, this is a conversation starter. What
I
is going on can be several things. Look, for example, I wanted to say, for example, there's something called weaponization of virtues, accountability and um, accountability and um, the one we are dealing with. Sorry, that just skipped me. Yes, accountability. There's two of them. Accountability and productivity, for example, can become so weaponized that it becomes toxic. Accountability and productivity can become so weaponized, for example, in many organizations that it has become so toxic. I mean, if somebody, for example, was sacked because they were not accountable, the next time accountability comes up in a managerial meeting, you see people literally shifting the room. The word has become toxic already. Remember, words are not meanings, and meanings are not words. If in that organization you've turned the word accountability to the conversation they have in PIP, it has become the word that people remember that all the people that they say they were not accountable in the past few weeks, months, or years typically end up in a sack. The moment you organize a training around accountability, you see different kind of behaviors because it's become weaponized. The word has changed in meaning in that organization. You've weaponized, you've toxified the word and inserted into it energies that have become another symbolism when people are interpreting it in their subconscious. That really is the issue. And once a word gets to that place in your HR, you better eliminate it from managerial every single day, managerial conversations every single day, because you won't get the best out of that word anymore. Peter, I hope I'm able to help. I hope you understand what I'm saying now. So that's another
Absolutely.
example, the
Thank you.
weaponization, for example, of the word accountability. Immediately, nobody wants to even have a meeting around it. Just like target for bankers has become like somebody wants to die. When you say we're in NPR, it's supposed to be a time to look at the weekly, but no. Okay, so yeah, what is dissonance and consonance? That's a deep psychological premise. Dissonance, well, Peter wants to help. Dissonance is when you disconnect or move something, you disconnect something deliberately because you're trying to fit a story. That's dissonance. You're trying to fit a story. You now remove something that should be, you reclassify your subconscious because you are trying to fit a narrative. While consonance is forceful agreeing. Even things that are not conjoined together, you agree together. And this is the trick in psychology. And Peter, I know this is where Peter and I will enter into psychological logic. Dissonance contains consonance, and consonance contains dissonance. Eventually, they are like twins or two parts of a system in balance and imbalance. But that's a lot of psychology. What we want to apply at the end of the day is how do you help people to become more accountable? That's number 6, for example. Don't weaponize accountability. Create a context around it that's not weaponizable. And make sure that you create a culture. Because if you don't, people start avoiding that word altogether. All right. Can I go on? Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, so at the root of accountability, if you want to drive accountability, at the root of it is that you want to encourage ownership. You want to not only encourage ownership, you want to impart and install ownership. Once you see avoidance in the room, there's a technique called OWN, and that's what I developed. It's a framework. Observe it, name what just happened, name it devoid of ownership. You don't want to tag it yet. Don't spin it. Strip the narrative down to the bare facts. What is the actual outcome and who was in position to influence it? Write all their names. This is who could have influenced it. And influence can be level 1 influence, level 2 influence, level 3 influence, level 4, level 5 influence, meaning that you can quantify all of these things. The second thing is W, witness yourself. Identify your internal response by yourself. What was my internal response? Am I deflecting this? Am I minimizing it? Or am I reframing it? What psychological driver is active right now? And I said that driver list is just 5. It can be more. I just gave you a 6th one, which is weaponization of meaning, for example, of that concept. Name it out loud or write it down. So what is your state of mind as regard that task? How does that task internally feel with you? Are you deflecting? Are you minimizing? Or are you reframing it? And then name your part of it, which is isolate your specific contribution. For example, action, inaction, decision. We can make that 1-0 meal, or you can program it as 1-2-3. Inaction is 1. Inaction is 1. Action is 2, decision is 3, whatever. This is just coding, and you can break it down as much as you want. It's just a tool you can use to the outcome. Not everything, just state your parts and clearly without any caveats. So that's an example to begin to help people to own or think about issues on the team so that they are not able to turn their backs on it, because it's a very critical issue for executive teams, by the way. The second tool that I would like to leave with you is the avoidance signature matrix. How avoidance appears on your team and what is costing you. There are 4 things. There are what you call the avoidance type, what it looks like, the psychological driver, and leadership response. The silent withdrawal. This person goes quiet when mistakes happen. That's what it looks like. They don't volunteer any more information. That's because they fear punishment. That's what drives it. And leadership, don't interrogate them, but just invite into a conversation. There's blame displacement. It looks like attributes outcomes to others, context, or the system. And at the end of the day, they are trying to protect ego or self-serving bias. And just ask them, what is your role in this? There's false business, overloads the task list to avoid decision ownership. They diffuse responsibility and assign clear ownership gates. And that's how to do it as a leader. The other one is reframe and revise. Rewrite event retroactively to protect narrative. Cognitive dissonance is the psychological driver, and document agreement in real time. That's second tool you can use. The third one is safety clarity axis. Where does your team sit? You can use this for you and your team. On the left-hand side is high safety and low clarity. Clarity is all what drives accountability. If something is not clear, you can't think accountability around what is not clear. Non-clear stuff is non-clear stuff. You cannot be accountable for something that is not clear. In fact, accountability also has cousins and siblings, and I don't want to go into them here, or not in this particular segment. So there is safety. Those are the 2 factors here: safety versus clarity. If there is no safety, it's difficult for somebody to be accountable. I mean, you can't drive people to be accountable unto death. The last person that was accountable died. The third person that was accountable died. The fourth person died. And so if somebody is not feeling safe, or for example, you throw a piece of job at someone that is everybody's job, or the last person that did it suffered health challenges, that's an unsafe zone. There will be nothing you will do. Anybody that takes that accountability, they have children at home, remember? They've got a family, they got a future. You now ask them to be accountable. Of what now? They should come and go and die. They won't do that to you. It's not worth their debt. So people are going to walk away from that kind of thing. All right. So there are four scenarios that can happen: high safety, low clarity, where people feel safe but don't know what they own. Effort is high, accountability diffuse, nice culture, poor execution. That's what you will see there. There's low safety, low clarity. This is where the organization is in chaos. Nobody owns anything. Survival instincts dominate. Blame is constant. Trust is destroyed from within. There's actually an accompanying tool that can help you diagnose. If you're interested in this, I can make that available to you where your team is on this particular list in terms of accountability. How do you know where your team is? There's a test in the diagnostic tool that I have that can help you there if you want to. But this is just basically looking at just two things: safety versus clarity. So where you want to be is the top corner here, where you are high safety, high clarity. But when there's low safety but high clarity, people will be compliant, but internally they are not committed. People know they must own, but fear consequences. Ownership is performed, is not genuine. They'll be making the audits, they'll be clocking the hours, but they're watching their backs because it's low safety. Now, how do you move yourself from this place to this place, from this place to this place, from this place to this place is your assignment as HR. If you want us to talk about that, I can also support, and I have tools and techniques and intervention plans for each of those quadrants and how to move. My fourth tool that I'm leaving with you is the accountability mirror. 5 questions leaders must ask, not their teams first. If you're a leader, you must do this for yourself. Where have I myself avoided accountability in the last 30 days? Write it down. Am I rewarding results or rewarding ownership? Now that's very thick and very deep. Many organizations and leaders actually reward results, but they don't reward ownership. And that there are two different things. Teams will optimize for what you celebrate. Be honest about which one it is. Be honest to yourself. Many organizations will say just bring results, just bring results. But there's a lady who took ownership, a young man who took ownership, who was in the rain, who went everywhere. And then this person just comes and does the last piece of work, and you're all heaping the accolades in that person's direction. You are saying openly, we reward results. Yes, if ownership helps us get results, then we are fine. But if your ownership is not making us get anything, you carry it from head to toe, yet you didn't get results, we are sorry. We don't reward that kind of thing. If that's the kind of organization you are, then it's good. But make sure you don't lie to people and saying, oh, the process also matters. No, 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 no. Write it down, make it clear that look about results. Because results and ownership are not necessarily the same thing. In fact, people that do ownership a lot may not have too much result. And there are examples for that. And for those that cook, you know that the day you cook very well for everybody, your appetite dies. Anybody seen it before? Your appetite dies. I'm looking for comments. Are we still listening?
Yes, we are. That's why mothers are tired when they are done cooking because the food you have made, you just don't feel like eating it. But if someone brings a
Thank
new pot
you.
of soup, you are eating.
Thank you. That's an example of ownership. So the mother is taking ownership by making sure everybody has eaten, but at the last minute, from a result perspective, everybody ate, but she has not been able to eat. That's the pain of people that run processes and yet they don't have rewards. Organizations should be totally truthful to say, this is the way we're going to make sure that mother also eats. We're going to also order the best of the best because she can't eat. That's an example of how accountability dies. And then she'll not just be in the kitchen the next time because she too wants to eat. All right, number 3, have I created a consequence for not owning or just for failure? Is there a consequence for not owning or is it a consequence for failure? Many people have consequence for failure, not for not owning. Because there are two different things technically. Accountability without consequence is a preference, not a standard. What narrative am I reinforcing when someone makes a mistake? Every response to failure teaches the team what ownership is worth. If every time someone makes a mistake, we kill the person, then that means if I want to die, I should take responsibility. And there are some accountability that is a trap. You set up accountability with a rope. You now begin to ask me to be accountable for a conversation. Some people are looking for who to help us name the person they want to sack. This lady is not performing or this person is not performing. They now bring you in as change manager or whatever, and they say you are now accountable for that person's performance. And they all know they should have made the decision before you even came in. Excuse me, that may be the end of your career. And if you're a wise person, you would also start dodging it with English and grammar, accountability out of the room. So if your accountability apparatus is set up to make people fail or to pass the buck or make a certain officer look stupid, people will not be accountable. There's no need playing all of those games. The human soul will eventually figure it out. And human beings are self-preservatory. They'll move in direction. I mean, there's something called corporate witchcraft, and it exists. Children keep on doing. And he exists. Yeah, he exists. He exists. He exists. He exists. If you set up the accountability conversation with a bid to put someone in jail or to accuse or further derogate someone, that person will not fall into that trap. Am I curious or accusate? Am I curious or accusatory when accountability breaks down? All of this is sober reflection for leaders to think about, and that's what that tool helps you. So number 5, the last one I'm sharing, what can you do 72 hours after accountability breaks down? There's a crisis in your team. Locate the breakdown. That's L. It's called lead. That's the tool. Don't wait for the postmortem. Find the exact decision point where ownership dissolved. Was it on clear rules, fear, or reframing? That's within 24 hours. Within 24 to 48 hours, when there's an accountability crisis, ask, don't accuse. Walk me through what you were thinking. Curiosity creates the psychological safety for truth to enter. Engage with curiosity and learning. A, assign with precision. Restate ownership. Name, outcome, deadline, measure. Ambiguous assignments breed avoidance. Precision will always clear. Document the standard. Whatever accountability looked like this time, write it down. Culture is what you repeat. Standards are only real when visible. All right. Okay, I did 6. Language is not soft. It is the architecture of ownership. Change the words. Help me bring people in. Change the words, then you change the culture. This is the other one, the accountability language swap. Begin to listen in your team for avoidance language versus ownership language. For example, it wasn't my call to make. No, you should say something like, I choose not to escalate it and I own that decision. What people say is a mental picture of the structure of their mind. What people say, especially at unguarded and stressful moments, is a mental picture of, it gives you a picture of their internal states and the state. Nobody told me what was expected. I didn't see clarity, and that was my responsibility. You hear it directly. Things just fell through the cracks. I failed to track this, and I will fix it. The team didn't deliver. My oversight of this delivery was insufficient. That's not really in my remit. I see a gap here, and I'm taking ownership of closing it. Now, listen to me. There are people that start in an organization saying the ownership language thingy. After 1 month max, okay, 6 weeks, worst case, they just become avoidance people. That's to say the organization is toxic towards accountability. And if you're toxic towards accountability, and some people see accountability as an opportunity to kill people. And like I said, there's witchcraft, there's corporate witchcraft. There is accountability that was set up to put you into the coffin. And the entire conversation, it was meant to destroy you. As a human being that's self-preservatory, you will not listen to them. You want to preserve, you have children, you have husband. So any attempt to be accountable, you just run away. You just take what is yours and just do your bit and go home. Now, that behavioral pattern is a failure of leadership and organizational context and culture is how we set it up, and organizations have a disposition towards accountability. It's not neutral. Forget about it. It is not neutral. There is a disposition you have as a business towards accountability, and it's not neutral. And accountability has been weaponized. It's one of the biggest, most weaponizable virtues that organizations, individuals, teams, and systems have used. I've seen people use accountability to kill people. There's just a limited amount of space you have for transactions in your soul. There's just a limited amount of pressure that you can handle. So people use accountability and feed it into your soul with a view to make you make a mistake, because the more accountable you are, you now have cognitive overload. Before you know, you sleep and say something you're not supposed to say and say, hey, we're waiting for you. The list is long. I can go on and on. Accountability is not a personality trait, it's a daily decision. The smart professional who avoids ownership is not deficient. They are responding rationally to a rational system. So if you have an irrational system, and most systems are irrational, by the way, they are not rational. It's human beings that set the system that should be rational. So if you set up accountability within your infrastructure as a tool to bait a person, the smart person will not even, they don't have time. They will do that. And one of the things I love about millennials and Gen Zs, Gen Alpha, Beta, and all of them, they will give you, they will respond in a nice way. You will know that your accountability is in your pocket. Your job as a leader is to make ownership the safer, more rewarding, and more natural choice. You must create an ecosystem that will make it wonderful for people to be accountable. You don't build an accountability culture by demanding it. You build it by deserving it. And it's your job as the leader or as the HR lead in code to ensure that organization deliver this. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I will now take questions.
Thank you, Adeoye. Thank you so much for this great session. In fact, from my own end, it's really, I'm seeing this from a different perspective. This is really a great topic. So this is question and answer session. If you have any question, kindly drop it or use the raise of hand button. Any question? Please, let's appreciate the speaker. Thank you so much. This was really insightful. Really insightful. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing from the wealth of your knowledge. Thank you. Any question? Any comments? Thank you. Everybody saying thank you from the chat box. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to also add something small. Okay, I can see two people's hands. Like, I want also add something small. When you feel that accountability, like an afterthought, when you feel that accountability behind the scenes had been discussed as the way to arrange a coffin for you, you know that it was a script and you were scripted all the way to that accountability room. Listen, you will choose non-accountability or anything else that helps you to survive as a human being. All right, so yeah, I see Modokwe and Peter. Modokwe first, and we'll go to Peter. Your questions?
It's a bit noisy at my background here, but I'll be quick. It's not a question per se, it's just a comment. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing from your knowledge. And it's really engaging to hear all this all over again. My comment is around the corporate witchcraft. I don't belong to any witchcraft society, but the little of the black one that we have seen on Nollywood, I can tell that the corporate witchcraft is the senior one. And is there a way to not get involved or to not get eaten up by the witches in the corporate organization? Yes. And that's why sometimes when you are at the management table in a meeting, everybody is deferring to the main person in the center. I have found a way around it in my own space. I am not licking their, like I'm not deferring to them when I don't want to defer to them. It's tough, it's hard. There's a lot of eye rolling, there's a lot of you will not support the guy's idea. We see that in a lot of way, but still I have found that when you are able to stand your ground and stand for what you know and not necessarily um, validating everything they say, they still know you for who you are respected, you are not necessarily always treated on the side, but there is a place they will put you. But over time, as time goes by and the things you're talking about that is not in alignment with theirs, but because we are professionals, the way I would say it is not like, oh no, I disagree. Oh, you have a good point there. However, I am tilting towards the side. I am not disagreeing with you. I am not validating you. I'm just stating my own. And so they will like each time, even when I decide like, oh, I'm not going to talk today, they will say, oh, Mo, do you have anything to add to this? Or do you have a differing opinion? And so we can get it done no matter how tough it is. Just have to be strategic about the way we go about it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I wish people who, I mean, the question, the first way you started, which is that you don't belong to any. Are there people on the call that belong to any so that they can give all of us insight? Because we are all not members of that. Oh Lord. Let me just make this a little bit easy. Your organization has its disposition towards accountability. And that disposition and that energy towards accountability is what we need to design as HR leaders. We should not make accountability fatal. When the word accountability comes, do a small survey when you get to work on Monday. When you hear the word accountability, what comes to your mind? Be honest. Make sure it's anonymous. Make sure it's anonymous. Watch for results that are neutral, the ones that have positive energy around it, and the ones that have negative energy around it. Here is the scary part. Even the ones that have positive energy around the word accountability today are potential candidates that will turn it to negative energy tomorrow. It should be a neutral word at the beginning. We now build positive energy around it as an organization. So if you build positive energy around it and make it look nice and take care of people who own and take responsibility, eventually with that culture will spread. But if it's fatal all the time, it's only the NPR that is mentioned. And when you want to sack or make a manager look bad, after a while, it's going to look bad for all of us. So the key is for all of us to start making the word accountability very positive. And at times, you may have to scale what is going on behind the scene and move into solutions quickly because you want to build equity and succeed fast. So that's my comment about what you said about how to navigate things like corporate witchcraft. I just used that as an example to say that I use that phrase corporate witchcraft to mean that some words have been weaponized even beyond toxicity to the point that it was a setup. There were meetings and counter meetings, discussion and counter discussions. There were plans well laid out, architectural frameworks, discussion and scenario planning, so that they landed accountability on your table in week 48. The meeting started in week 1. They were waiting for you to land, and when it landed, is that you're already in their net. When you're dealing with that level of conspiracy as a human being, you and organizations have them. Team members do it, individuals do it, organizations have them. The key when you have that kind of capacity or you have that kind of problem, the key is to know that that person will balk. And if you have that level where people have discussed before the meeting, there's formal organization and informal organization. Now, if the informal organization is so strong that it's already sacking people with no letter, although the letter will come out in the formal organization in the morning, it's time to look into that informal system and make sure that it's generating positive energy. Otherwise, everybody can sack each other before you know it. Anyway, I'm one of those who feel that somebody should be measuring organizational toxicity. or how much positive energy is in the organization? That's one of my thoughts. All right. So, two questions in the comment, Peter, before we have just a minute, I guess, in line. So, as a subordinate, how do we survive a line manager who is not accountable? He or she makes you responsible only whenever things don't look good. Well, does your organization have 360-degree feedback? And can it be anonymous? If yes, that's the way to go. If no, it's a complex place to be. You have to manage it and manage your boss. So accountability has the positive side and it has the negative side. You can start encouraging the positive energy because you have to also manage your boss up, which means, I mean, you are the boss. This email should come from you. It has some positive. You are the one who it should come from you. It should not be delegated to us. Because, or I mean, you may not use my exact words, but the point is, this is something that's important, and you are the important boss. And I think that it's going to help all of us. And if you can't, you want to engage HR, but that's a very tricky one. It's complex and it's tricky, I must tell you. How do you remain accountable? And if anybody wants to help with solutions, please help. Uh, how do you remain accountable or non-accountable in an unhealthy political office space and manage sacred cows and august people? Yeah, that's what I said earlier. I hate bias and I won't kiss that part of the body that you wrote. Now, my colleague later thought to herself, it looks like we need to compromise and become don't look and be collecting our salary so that we can keep our jobs. That's the problem with toxicity. If you don't address that behavior, it now begins to spread and it becomes the norm. That's the problem. That's the problem. Very complex place to be too. I think the key is don't forget that you're a professional and your career is more than that organization. You still go to other places. Don't learn the bad habits and don't bend to the bad habits so that you now become one of them and then you lose your identity as a professional. Yeah. And there's a level of toxicity that you should begin to look for another job, by the way. Your mental space, your mental health is also very important, you know. Peter, I see your hand, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. Please note that I have copied all your full framework, and I copied it in such a way that your names are not really appearing, so we can present it elsewhere. So this is for me a very
Wait, Peter, wait, Peter, wait. You copied my slide that it will not present. So how much are you going to pay
oh my
what do you call this now? For royalty. Anyway, when you get the consulting something, just send the check my way. Thank you for
God.
saying it. For other people that will copy it, just send the check my way. I don't fire people. It's not a problem. We can all be rich together. Just send something to the boys. This is the only requirement that I will. So go on.
Thank you very much. Indeed, it's a wonderful framework. And I think each of the panels you have presented are capable of standing alone for even exploration of this subject matter. You had, before Modupe took the call, you had responded to why I was raising my hand for a question. I wanted to ask, um, in an organization that is high pressed, under high tension. I understand that some of these framework you have recommended are supposed to be an ongoing cultural practices in the organization, and you expect that over time things will begin to look very very well. I wanted to say, okay, what are the political or what is the politics that we need to begin to infuse in the whole execution of some of these recommendations that you have provided, but tacitly you had made mention of some of them. So
That's a very yeah. Go on.
okay. Let me just quickly say, if you want to see that toxicity that you are talking about, just look at uh, Trump's administration, especially uh, the member of the team facing the House on accountability for the war in Iraq. You see, they are not answering questions. They are just, even though they know that these things are not okay, they still continue to stick with the dominant position of Trump. Otherwise, you can get fired. I didn't know until recently that you don't begin to use logic for your bosses. Rather, you follow them with empathy. Otherwise, they might resent you and begin to suppress you to the background and possibly begin to orchestrate how you lead the organization. I just wanted to put that on the call so that people can know. Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Yeah, you said a lot of things, Peter. So number one, the politics. How do you play the politics of this? How do we do the political angle? Do you mean that how do we make these two more popular? Excuse me, is that what you're saying? And how do we
Uh,
start to influence the system so that they are much more open to these conversations? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, let me give you the typical dynamics. The dynamics is that most of the organization undergo what they call tuning, that is changing aspect of the organization rather than a revolutionary or holistic changing
Yes.
of the organization. Now, within an organization that is already toxic, you are training or you are applying this framework to a set of people uh, who might begin to get the the I don't know, the boomerang, yes, from an organization that is not holistically ready to be accountable, that is ready to put people under the bus, that is ready to blame people for actions that other people.
Ah,
So, what
yeah,
is the
that's clear
policy
now.
of ensuring that you can
Okay.
most
Okay, I see
behave?
that. That's clear now. So you're dealing with something else altogether. Accountability is not the only problem here. You're dealing with a toxicity level. You're dealing with an organizational toxicity level. The nature, you said it earlier, by the way, you're dealing with a theory X organization gone very bad to what I call X raised to power X, which means that you're dealing with malicious intent. You're dealing with organizations where people really want to backbite and all of that. They really want to hurt and harm each other. The first question is, where are you in the management of this organization? Are you the head of HR or are you the CEO? Or what role are you? Are you a consultant or are you a change manager? Whichever way you are, you need is it a problem? Because accountability is as two brothers, responsibility, accountability. I think the third one is clarity. No, no, it's not clarity, ability. Meaning you can perform the task. It's something that's been apportioned to you to do, is within your control to do. Only then can we make you accountable for it. If, for example, this assignment you are trying to do is out of your range, if you have CEO, you have CMO, CFO, you have all the chiefs in place, and you're just someone that's not even head of HR, you're not even chief of human resource or chief culture officer. I'm sorry. It's the job of a foreman. Nobody can do the work of four people, as my grandmother would say. It's an apparatus set up to make you fail. There's this toxicity level. They brought you as antioxidant, but the oxidation level in the organization is already oxidated. I don't know how to say that in English. Look, paracetamol can be overwhelmed by pain. No, if you're a small player within that large entity, so that and you don't have any lever or control or command. In the military, influence is governed by control, command, communication, in signaling. You don't have control or command, but they gave you communication. You'll be talking nonsense. You'll be talking, talking, talking. They gave you control and command, but not communication. You can't talk. How people follow you? Those three elements must be there. Are you at the level of command, control, and communication that can win that battle? If not, please stop. Don't bother. It will swallow you. The tsunami will swallow you. So that's my thoughts about that. If you're not at that point, but if you're at that point, we can now start talking some things. Number one, you may need to sack, you may need to detoxify. Some people may need to go. Because culture is sustained by senior executives and certain behavioral patterns of senior executives. It will shock you that every culture has its level of control point, and it's Pareto 80-20. There is a 20% of executives, or let me say this way, there's between 10 to 30% executives responsible for 80 to 90% of the behavioral patterns you will see in terms of toxic work culture. Let me say it again. There's a 10 to 20, maximum 30% of executives or leaders in a business responsible for 70 to 80 to 90% toxicity levels. Identify those people, either detoxify them, debrief, detoxify, whatever you want to do, or you may have to let some of them go to give the system a clean break. So that may be the place to start. For we cannot even start thinking of new culture and all of that. Because someone going to tell you that when they came back to Nigeria, they were here. When Lord Lugard named Nigeria, they were here. You came, you this small boy. You want to tell us how to run this business? You better take a leave. Some of those guys have to go. That's why many change organizations don't survive the change. One of the most difficult jobs is whether in HR, in tech, who they call change managers, because change can change you, or change can exchange you as a change manager. So therefore, you yourself remain change, which means you make small money. Input, forgive my. So hardcore conversation, between you and I, you may have to let some people go as starter. Then you may have to now begin a lot of reorientation, coaching intervention, psycho-emotional analytics. But trust me, no L&D will solve this problem. None. It will be difficult for it to be traditional L&D to solve this problem. Toxicity is very toxic. It can toxify the detoxifier. Wherein you think you want to heal, then you are infected with the sickness. All right. I hope I didn't sound too bleak. Hello.
Thank you. Hello.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
sir. All right. Thank you so much, sir. Once again, thank you for imparting us with so much knowledge. We really learned so much, and we are glad to have you here with us this evening. Please, can we just once again celebrate our facilitator for this evening? Thank you so much, sir. And to all our participants, thank you also for joining us this evening. Thank you for learning, and please just appreciate yourself, appreciate our facilitator first. Please just give him the emoji, let the emojis keep rolling in. Thank you so much, sir, Mr. Adeoye Abodunrin. We really appreciate you. We learned so much. Personally, I've learned so much from 1 to 6, and I must say they're really, really very great. Thank you so much. And to all our participants, thank you so much once again for joining us. We are really, really glad you did this evening. And we know that next time when we call you, you're going to also invite your friends to join us. And so at this junction, we're wrapping up. And for us to wrap up this session this evening, we want to call on our national president, Dr. Michael. Please over to you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
All right, thank you so much, Blessing. Our able lay reader, thank you so much. It's been an amazing time listening to you. A lot of the insights that I have personally gleaned, I will use them personally to become a better leader. I think one of the key things we need to take away from this lesson is the OWN framework. That resonates deeply with me. And thank you so much, Dr. Adeoye Abodunrin. We deeply appreciate, honor, and respect you a lot. Every time we call upon you to share your expertise, we have never been in doubt of your competence, experiences, and the wealth of insights you bring to the table. I'd like to encourage everyone who is on the call, try and ensure that you pay for your certificate, because paying for the certificate will ensure you get the slides, and flip through the own framework. If we have time in the future, we will invite him back just to do a deep dive, because that own framework to me personally, I think it's very deep. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, the Global Advisory Council, the MANCOM, and all the members of HRP, we'd like to say thank you to Dr. Adeoye Abodunrin. Our hearts are gladdened. Of course, you are part of the leadership of HRP. You have also immensely blessed me with a lot of your insights, your mentorship, guidance over the years. We are deeply grateful. Also, I'd like to encourage every member of HRP as we reflect on the lessons that we have learned. Let's not just take notes alone, but let's see how we can begin to, take baby steps and use the information to better our careers and add more value to our organizations. Also, let me recognize one of our fathers and veterans, Venerable Ademola Adesonwo. Thank you so much, sir, for joining this session. On this note, I'll hand over back to the moderator, Blessing Oluwalusi, to close the session. Blessing, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Mo. Thank you so much, sir. So, on this note, we have come to the end of the session, and we are so glad once again for joining us. Please, once again, don't forget to pay for a certificate so that you can have full access to the slide. And also, please don't forget our conference coming up in November. Don't forget, you can pay as a team, as an individual. You can encourage your friends, your organization, other HR members. You can also encourage them to pay for the conference. So, on this note, we have come to the end of the learning session this evening.